up here, you stand behind this. Otherwise, Melody will throw something at you, or fuss at you, or whatever she just did to me. The first thing I would like to, the first person is Amy. She is with Brazos Bookstore, and I'd like for her to give us the official welcome. You have to stand behind here.
That's what I do. All right. Hi everyone, welcome to Brazos Bookstore. I would imagine most of you are fairly familiar with us because you do these events here on a pretty regular basis, but just in case, we are Houston's oldest independent bookstore. We are 50 years old this year, hence our 50 years of Brazos Wall. Thank you. We're very proud to be the granddaddy of all the Houston independent bookstores. We do events like this all the time. We do about 300 events a year. So we do in-store events with authors. We do off-site events. We have book clubs. We have story times. We work with organizations in Houston like Performing Arts Houston, Imprint, Asia Society, the Baker Institute, lots of organizations like that. So we stay pretty busy. We do a lot of events. If you are interested in keeping up with our event schedule for events for the public, we have a clipboard at the register. Please sign up for our newsletter, which goes out every Tuesday. I promise it only goes out on Tuesdays. We do not harass you any other time other than early Tuesday morning, and that'll have information about upcoming events, new releases, what our staff is reading, all kinds of things like that. So it's a great way to keep in touch with what's going on here at the store. Our event schedule is also on our website, so you can grab one of our bookmarks, keep our website in mind, and you can always check our event calendar there to see what we are up to. One last thing, we do have a restroom. It's through the back door. Follow the orange line on the floor, and I think that's it.
I have water back there.
Yes, and there is water on the table on the way to the restroom, actually. So if you're going to the restroom, you will certainly find it. And I think that's it. Let's turn it over and you guys can get started.
As always, many, many thanks to Brazos Bookstore for hosting this every year. I don't know if this is our third or fourth. I lose track. But I'm glad everybody is here this evening. Why do we have haunted stories in the middle of, well, it's supposed to be fall or winter, but, ignore the temperature outside. There's actually a long-standing tradition. Andy Williams sang about it in a Christmas song. A long-standing tradition of reading ghost stories and spooky stories. The family gathered around, especially before the days of technology and television and such. And I'm getting more and more into the Christmas type stories. So next year, come back and you may meet Krampus. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But I noticed a lot of the stories that are scary involve trying to keep either little children behaving, because the misbehaved children are the ones who get, taken away by the ghosts and monsters, or if the ghost or monster does not like how well you keep house, you can be in trouble. So I think there was some underlying reasons for some of these stories, but they're great fun. And yes, they're everywhere the more you look for them. Here, I saw A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, which is like the #1 scary Christmas story. There's also something about the Witches of El Paso, which I have not read yet. So, I'm sure I'll have to get into that. To start us off tonight, and again, I'm very grateful for all the readers who are here, because this is my favorite event of the year. We're going to start off with Jere Pfister, who has some reading for us.
May I not fall on my face. Good evening. The results of the election have left me deeply disturbed, more so than I was before. And I have spent the last week living on the surface. I live in a senior living facility with my husband. And the dining room noise level was very quiet. on the day after the election. Some of the women wanted to know what I was thinking, and I told them, I don't know. And I didn't know what I was thinking. I just knew I couldn't talk or speak about it. But somehow or other, this person came to me, and what some of the results of this could be.
And I hear, people talking about the stress levels they're going through this week, and it's like, of course, everybody's stressed for one reason or another. To follow that, Denise Bossarte, did I finally say it correctly?
Close enough.
Okay.
Thanks, Jere, for making me come after that second. So recently, last year or so, I've become interested in writing stories about human-robotic interactions. So I'm a technologist, but also have a background in biological sciences, so you'll see this coming together in this story. Gaia 473. The forest slowly woke as the sun rose over the top of the mountains. A cool breeze floated past the top of the trees, rippling the brightly colored leaves, dripping with moisture. Winter was making its way into the higher elevations, and the chill of the night would linger for hours at the base of the trees before the mist hovering above the ground would dissolve. Gaia 473 greeted each of the mother trees as they roused, her nanites monitoring the flow of messages in the air, flowing past their trunks and along the network of mycorrhiza connecting the trees. The absence of warning pheromones in the air indicated no stressor for the forest flora, and the messages of sugars and other chemicals reflected the health of the forest. The mother trees were sharing their bounty of photosynthesis with their children saplings, supporting their slow but steady growth. The ease of their communications was a poignant reminder to Gaia 473 of the absence of the world net connecting all the Gaia systems. Normally she would not let herself linger on such memories, but today was Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, and today she would honor her sisters with remembering. The creation of the Gaia systems had been hailed as the ultimate collaborative effort across the planet. Hundreds of thousands of acres of land over every continent had been designated as protectorates, extending the 21st century efforts by the World Wildlife Fund to conserve many of the world's most ecologically important regions. The advances of artificial intelligence and ecological computer models had enabled man to build and integrate the Gaia systems into each of their own unique ecosystems across the globe. They were connected via satellite communications so they could continue to learn from each other and evolve in their capabilities as shepherds of their areas. But then men started ravaging the planet in their efforts to fully dominate one another. The conflicts had begun in the major metropolitan centers, but eventually the Gaia protectorates became collateral damage as the fighting spread beyond the urban centers. It had been decades since the last communication satellites had failed and dropped back to the planet, leaving Gaia 473 isolated from her sisters. Where there had once been the intimacy of near real-time connection, she now existed in digital silence, with only the sounds of the forest to accompany her through the seasons. As the years flowed by and her isolation grew more intense, she began to integrate herself more and more into the flora and fauna of her protectorate, immersing herself until she became the entire ecosystem. Rather than just monitoring and protecting the forest, she had become the forest. Today was different. The time she had dedicated to honoring and grieving her lost sisters was interrupted by unwelcome noises from the normally quiet grassland at the edge of the forest. The sounds of voices and footfalls of humans and machines penetrated the forest. Gaia 473 immediately began gathering her nanites from the ground and trees at the edge of the forest as a first line of defense. Other nanites would reach the site of the invasion in a short amount of time. The last time humans brought their machines to her forest decades earlier, Gaia 473 had not recognized the danger until it was too late. She had not reacted fast enough to the men when they arrived, and that delay had meant the death of many mother trees vital to the health of the forest. Her response to that assault was the annihilation of the men and demolition of their machines. Her nanites had released the flesh and bones of the invaders to the forest within days and repurposed the last bits of metal in weeks. Years later, the forest was still recovering. Gaia 473 sent her nanites racing out to meet the intruders, forming a wall of machines, stone, and soil 7 feet high between the forest and the humans. She created a humanoid figure that separated itself from the wall and strode a few feet forward before coming to stand silently facing the encampments of the humans had started to erect. Surprisingly, the humans only paused briefly to look in the direction of the wall before returning to their task. The 3 robots accompanying the humans responded by approaching the wall to a distance of 20 feet and settling to the ground, and then they began transmitting to her. Within a quick half hour, Gaia 473 learned the humans were scientists traveling to each of the Gaia protectorates in North America, looking to evaluate the Gaia systems and bring them back online if necessary. They were using ham radio technology to set up communications between the systems to replace the lost satellite communications. And before the end of the day, she would be able to speak to 3 of her sisters again for the first time in decades.
Then we have Katherine McDaniel.
Hey everybody. This is a
Read loud.
Oh yes, I will. I'm an opera singer. I'll read loud. Yeah, I sing part-time at HGO. So this is a little piece. It's a scary little piece, and it's a memoir piece that happened 35 years ago, and I wrote it out last week or the week before, and it was still quite scary. So here goes. When I was 10, my dad died. He was chopping a cedar tree on our property, afraid someone could hide behind it and surprise my mother or me at the mailbox. And he experienced his second heart attack. He died on the side of the road, less than a mile from the house. Mom and I continued living in the country, but it soon became apparent this was too much for the 2 of us. Our valiant 14-year-old German Shepherd, Thor, named for the god of thunder, the one thing he feared, died, and so did the peach tree in Mom's garden. Mom used to say, grief comes in 3s.
Yep.
Almost 2 years after Dad died, Mom found a 2-story townhouse we could afford. It had been vacant for a while, but it seemed comfortable enough. The living room was sectioned off from the kitchen by a small bathroom on the bottom floor, while the top floor featured 2 bedrooms with a bigger bath in between. Between floors was an ugly, carpeted staircase that emitted a soft, musical thud with each step. That fall, I caught mononucleosis, despite being a wallflower in a small Christian school that Mom found. I couldn't go to school, and a lonely Thanksgiving and Christmas passed, with me spending long hours hanging out at home, feeling drained. Subconsciously, I was homesick, missing our country home and my dad, and that added to the dark cloud of holiday malaise. Then the dream started. Thud, thud. Thud, thud. I look out from my room toward the staircase. Someone is coming up the stairs. I can hear Mom snoring in her room. I start to panic, but I can't move. Then I wake up. Thud, thud. Thud, thud. I look out from my room toward the staircase. Someone is coming up the stairs. I can hear Mom snoring in her room. I start to panic, but I can't move. Something rounds the top of the stairs, a dark shape, in a cloak. It turns toward me. Where there should be a face, there is smoothness. A dark oval, convex, gleaming slightly as if lit from within. Then I wake up. Thud, thud. Thud, thud. I look out from my room toward the staircase. Someone is coming up the stairs. I can hear Mom snoring in her room. I spring out of bed to get to Mom's room, but I trip over a dark shape on the floor. A dark shape that seems vaguely like a large dog. I try to scream, but no sound comes out. Something rounds the top of the stairs, a dark shape in a cloak. Then I wake up, terrified. There was nothing there. There was never anything there. It seemed so real, real enough that I was never sure whether I was awake or not. This nested, lucid dream repeated not every night, but enough to keep me on edge, wondering when it would happen again. Now, I didn't want to worry my mom, but after a while, I decided to tell her what was happening. As I described the dream, her face went white. Katie, she said, I've been dreaming that I am waking up in the middle of the night, hearing you scream, but I can't get up to help you because something dark and heavy is sitting on my chest. When the time came to renew our lease, we declined.
Okay, now I'm good at, now I'm good and scared. All right. Thank you, I love that. Okay, our next reader is Jean King.
Wishes, or Texas death cleansing. It all started when I read Swedish Death Cleansing. I really needed to be working on a commission for a watercolor painting for a client. I was wishing for more time before I needed to hand the painting over. But you know what they say, if wishes were horses, I wished the only thing I had to do was paint. It was spring equinox, a day of balance, time for spring cleaning. It seemed like a good day to balance my creativity and my domesticity. The only thing I really know about balance is it's the place I pass when I'm headed for an extreme. And I'm really good at procrastination. Instead of painting, I decided to start cleaning out my kitchen junk drawer. That catch-all for twist ties, rubber bands, odds and ends that could be best categorized as miscellaneous. It wouldn't take that long, right? I spread a large black plastic garbage bag on the floor. I placed a white kitchen garbage bag next to it, and I dumped the contents out. Pencil nubs, screws, nails, scraps of paper, and other detritus covered the plastic. The drawer was empty except for one last thing, a thing I couldn't recall ever having seen before. It appeared to be a box, although it was hard to tell, as the shape was softened by a cocoon of rubber bands. As far as I could determine, it was about the size of a pencil box. It had evidently been there for a long time, longer than I had lived in this house. It was stuck to the back wall of the drawer by its sticky, decomposing rubber bands. I took a screwdriver from the pile of odds and ends and pried it loose. I was loath to open it, but curiosity got the best of me. I envisioned myself as a sort of domestic archaeologist opening an ancient tomb or a reliquary containing holy relics. What treasures might be concealed within? I began to unwrap the mummified box, hoping it wasn't cursed. The first layer of rubber bands stuck to my fingers and broke when I tried to stretch them. I had to stop and wash the goo off my fingers before I could continue. The next layer was wrapped so tightly I couldn't get a grip on any one rubber band. They were stretched to their limits. I would have to cut my way in. I found a pair of kindergarten scissors in the jumble on the plastic bag and began cutting the rubber bands. I wriggled the blunt tips under several of the bands. They were still elastic and gave a little snap of relief as I cut them. Rubber band fragments flying around me. I became obsessed with the need to find out what the box contained. So much for decluttering, so much for painting. I sat amid the pieces of rubber bands, ignoring the pile of junk on the plastic. My only focus was the box. It took me an hour, but I finally came to the surface of the box. It was made of a dark wood with metal hinges and a metal latch. The surface was marred by a jumble of scratches. Some of them appeared to be random marks, while others might be names, and still others could be dates. Some might have been made by my attempts to get the rubber bands off. None of them were decipherable at a glance. That would be a future task. I paused to consider what might be inside. Pens and pencils? Too predictable. A child's treasures. Perhaps a bony, desiccated saint's finger, or a splinter from the true cross. My imagination was running away with me. I examined the latch. I took a deep breath, and I pushed it open. The latch gave, but the hinges gave me a bit more resistance. I didn't want to break them, so I had to go gently. It opened with a slight sigh of a creak. The interior was not that of a pencil box at all. It was lined with burgundy velvet cushioning its contents, a butterfly corpse, a crumpled scrap of paper that appeared to be from a fortune cookie, and a number 8 watercolor brush. The papers read, "Be careful what you wish for," on one side, and the numbers 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63 on the other. I ignored the jumbled pile of things on the plastic, got a cup of water from the sink, and took the paintbrush to my studio. I pulled out my watercolor palette and a block of watercolor paper. The brush's handle read in barely visible gold letters, Remedios Varos Series 9, Kolinsky Sable, size 8. The brush felt perfect in my hand. The bristles came to a precise point and sprang back into shape when I bent them. The ferrule appeared to be brass, with a worn patina from years of use. I sprayed a mist of water on the palette, dipped the brush in the cup of water, and began to paint. It was as though that brush had always been waiting for my hand. I couldn't put it down. Literally. I haven't been able to stop painting since. Hopefully someone will find me soon.
Our next reader is Margo Toombs, and just sit back and relax. She's reading for more than one person, so she's got a couple of things to share with us this evening, and it's always entertaining.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I bought these to give out to the adults on Halloween. It's milkweed seeds. So I have lots. So if you would like to take some home, please, please see me. Okay, great. Yeah, the adults who got them on Halloween were like, thank you.
Do you eat these?
3 tiny ghost stories. Started in a workshop by Lorette Lusicic at the Ekphrastic Review. Number 1. Bedroom visitors. I didn't believe in ghosts until that morning after the drowning. Such a sweet young man, gone before I had a chance to say goodbye. Here's what happened. On the cusp of dawn, a cloud scented with salt and seaweed seeped through a crack in the ceiling. A mist that carried dust from the attic at the top of those imaginary stairs. Moist fingers stroked the fuzz on my face as he drifted past my bed. Through the slit in my eyes, I saw him hover in the corner, an angel with wings. I tried to move, to speak, but I was frozen. His eyes bored into mine until he pulled the love and regret from my heart. Then he vanished into the morning light. Was he a conjured cliche or a ghost? I can't say, but he opened a portal where others seeking closure could float into my world. And now I worry when I go to bed, who might greet me in the morning? Number 2, warning from the trees. And I didn't know that Denise would read her beautiful story about the forest, so here you go. Stay away from clearings in the woods after dark. Trees are smarter than you think. Their leaves heal wounds caused by humans. Their roots form ancient webs that reach out to other trees and warn them of danger. They remember who hurt them. Did you think all of that life had no soul? When a tree is cut down or burned, trunks groan, leaves shiver and fall. At night, ghosts arise from their roots. You can see them when the moon is full. Anguished faces buried in puffs of clouds, stalking the woods in search of dead trunks and leaves. Someday they will stop breathing, withhold oxygen, and take their revenge in global scorching. Number 3, embroidered stories. She taught herself the art of embroidery. Invisible hands guided the threads that spoke to her. As her vision faded, she relied more and more on this spiritual practice. Once fully blind, her embroideries became messages from those who had passed on. After she finished each piece, she stroked the fabric and told the story whispered to her by a ghost, a sort of fabric braille. When people learned of her gifts, they sought her out and begged her to stitch a story from a loved one on the other side. The spirit world warned her not to show her work to sighted people, or they would lose their sight too. She pleaded with her followers to keep their eyes closed. But there's always someone who has to look. A Cat Tale by Rebecca Chirak. My heart stopped. I couldn't even meow. Stacy had just used up her last wish, and it wasn't on turning me back into a human. She wished for Daryl to propose to her with the exact engagement ring she had just pinned on Pinterest. Daryl, that tepid 2-week-old gas station hot dog of a man. And that tacky ring. I couldn't express any of these opinions in my current form unless it was by haughtily jumping onto her bed and peeing on her favorite ugly Christmas sweater that she had left there. The one that was only her favorite because Daryl told her it made her boobs look big. It totally didn't. I swished my tail while I considered it. She'd probably leave me at the animal shelter, and she wouldn't drive the extra 15 minutes to make it the no-kill one either. The doorbell rang. Somehow I knew it was Daryl at the front door on Christmas Eve with a jewelry box in his hands. We don't have all the readers. I have one more little short thing. I went to some workshops with Brooke on blackout poems or erasure poems, however you want to call them. And so I made this erasure poem for a memorial service. And so I took something that the person had written in Facebook during the lockdown, and then I pulled out words to form a poem. Dreams. Interpreting my life through Freudian and Jungian lenses. Carry me to a history, my history, broken in mystical sleep. Thank you.
Thank you, Margo. You always throw a little something extra in when you do these readings, and I always get excited about seeing what it's going to be this time.
Thank you.
Our next reader is Dedra Murchison.
Murchison.
Thank you. What she said.
Having the container for my fear has been a really helpful practice these last few days. I refuse to write or create, afraid of what I might unearth. And these, I'm calling, are the fragments of my fears. Sound the alert. Man the battle stations. All hands on deck. The ship is about to wreck. The nummies are coming. The nummies are coming. Emotional wave, building, fueled by a steady diet of bad news, life, and strife. The nummies are coming. The nummies are coming. Icy claws of terror cling to tender vital organs, robbing them of much-needed resources. The nummies are coming. The nummies are coming. Breathing shallowly, less oxygen circulates. Troublesome thoughts begin to percolate. The nummies are coming. The nummies are coming. Nervous system signaling dysregulation. Initiate disassociation sequence. Greedy corporate vultures poisoning our children. Racist xenophobes armed to the teeth projecting their shadow on innocence. Evil zombies lacking the discernment to recognize their inhumanity. Acrimonious heathens masquerading as Christians, spouting ungodly, unholy rhetoric. Toxic toddler tyrants bullying the people they are supposed to serve. Kellogg's is not great, and neither is America. This land is your land, but not for you. Top of the pyramid reservations for the chosen few. No room for perspective, just a one-lensed view. How did we get here? 1 by 1 or 2 by 2? Red, white, and bruised, I could not be less enthused. Land of the free or home of tyranny. I want to flee. You bully you, I bully me, then we disagree. A recipe for the annihilation of democracy. We choke together on lies and hypocrisy. It's hard to be wrong when you're white, when privilege is clouding your sight. You can't read the room and prefer to assume, surely worthiness is not everyone's birthright. It's hard to be wrong when you're unkind, when you blame others with projections from your mind. You can't handle the truth, and it brings out your Ruth. You wander as someone who's blind. It's hard to be wrong when you're right. All you ever do is fright and fight. But when they have a gun, it's no longer much fun. It's hard to be wrong when you're right. This one I call We Are Only Human. Hiding fear and anger, we bury it deep, deep, deep. Blaming others for our transgressions, we seek to purge them and remove all evidence, bleaching the bones in a toxic vat of lies and illusions. Stirring the pot as it boils over, obliterating everything in its path without discernment until nothing is left. We refuse to see ourselves and each other as naked and vulnerable creatures, worthy of love, compassion, and care. We dance around the bonfire, oblivious to the impact on our land and people. One stray spark, and we lose all humanity. Is it insanity or vanity? So I was feeling a little bit better by now. Art is the medicine for these times. Make something holy of the profane. Bless the mess and embrace the challenge. Express that which cannot be said in words. Let it spill out of your brush and splash on the canvas, illuminating the light in the darkness. Sound the bell, sing the song. Make it move and wiggle. You can do no harm unless you repress the expression. Let it bleed, let it ooze, let it spread, let it burn, let it be what it wants to be. Tear paper, glue it together. Use your tools with less precision and more passion. Alchemize, transform, mutate, shapeshift. This is the way, right now.
That's all right. I needed a moment to just let that soak in. And I know, and I've seen so many Facebook postings and what have you, where all the creatives are saying, okay, one of the ways we're going to deal with this is by creating, and this is the time to express what we're feeling and what we're thinking. And so I can just imagine within the next 4 years what all we're going to be hearing and seeing. So keep up the good work, y'all. I'm reading a Thanksgiving story. Turkeys in Revolt. The longer the turkeys milled around in the afterlife processing center, the more their bodies became translucent. However, while their bodies were becoming steadily lighter, their voices remained elevated. Something seemed to be brewing. There were rumors. Before, Bernard would always feel reverential watching turkeys transform through reincarnation, but this year he was tired and stressed. "What's going on down there on the people realm?" Lucy said, flapping her wings. Bernard strutted towards her with ruffled feathers. "In recent years, so many of us died, but then never made it to a Thanksgiving feast. 1 year it was the pandemic. Then there was a supply chain problem. People just aren't gathering around a festive dinner table with giant Toombs as their star attraction. What would Norman Rockwell have to say?" Lucille faced Bernard, "And no one's been making wishes on our bones. Although why do people think their future depends on the bones of a dead fowl? And talk about gathering around a dinner table. Do you know what's going on with the humans? This has been an election year, and you'd think everyone had lost their minds. So many people have guns, alcohol, and very dysfunctional families. Then there's always that one uncle or friend who argues with everyone and only agrees with himself. The last time that happened while I was in the room, I just wanted to jump off the platter and whack everyone with my delectably cooked legs." "Yes," Bernard responded, "it's always better when folks can focus on the parades and football games, but we're getting way off topic. Where are the Grim Reapers, especially Willow since she is the lead? Our sacrifice is supposed to mean something, damn it." Then Bernard saw Willow walking towards the front of the room. Because she had been a human and not a fowl, she was much taller than the turkeys. Also, her black robe swirled around very dramatically when she walked. He called out to her, "Do you believe this?" Willow responded, "I've heard all the rumblings. Is this why the turkeys are staging a slowdown and refusing to move on? Yes, Bernard replied. We want answers or we'll just stay here and not go through reincarnation until the humans can figure things out. Willow shook her head and put a bony hand on her hip. Don't hold your breath waiting for any of the humans to figure anything out. I understand your frustration, but this is causing quite the logjam. By the way, where is Terry? Bernard asked. Willow pointed to the side door. He's through there talking with one of the upset gobblers. Bernard went through the door and saw the head of the turkey Grim Reapers. Terry no longer reincarnated, so he didn't have any feathers. His skeletal form under his black robe always reminded Bernard of how small we all were without fancy feathers. He stood by respectfully while Terry spoke with a very irate turkey. He was just close enough to hear the conversation without looking too nosy. I'm telling you, Terry, I'm here by mistake. I was supposed to stay with my family. Terry used his skeletal wings to motion to the irate gobbler to calm down. Continuing to flap around in frustration, the turkey continued. You don't understand. I was part of the family. There was a little girl who would play with me, and we had our picture taken together. That still doesn't mean they were keeping you long term. This family lived on a farm. Think of all the fresh air and sunshine you enjoyed. She named me Butterball, shrieked the offended fowl. I actually answered to that silly name. How could I have been so naive? I don't ever want to be a turkey again. Is that possible? Well, if you want to be a house pet, you could go through processing to become either a cat or a dog, Bernard suggested. Butterball stopped, his agitated flittering. A dog? That might be nice. I could be a good dog for some nice family. Can I be a happy, fluffy dog? Bernard smiled. Sure, it could be a great life. Once you're adopted by a human family, get your shots, get neutered. Wait, what? The turkey was once again agitated and confused. So if I'm a turkey, I get my head chopped off. But if I'm a dog, I get my what cut off? Terry laughed. It's no biggie if you'll pardon the pun. Chances are it will happen when you are young. Then you get to live in the house with your new family. Free room and board and all of the loving one can desire. Most consider the trade-off to be quite an agreeable over time. Bernard couldn't help but laugh out loud at the prospect of getting neutered just for the pleasure of human company. What are you laughing at? Demanded Butterball. My apologies, began Bernard. I'm just of the opinion that I would rather lose my head than my, giblets, you might say. Terry broke in saying, to each his own, we all have our preferences and opinions. At that moment, Willow stuck her head in. I need you in here, Terry, pronto. Of course, Willow, I'm on my way. And Bernard, I'm guessing that you wanted to discuss this crazy state of affairs? Yes, I do. It's all madness, both on the earth plane and up here. Well then, my friend, Terry said, let's go in together and see what can be done. Then Terry stopped and turned to Willow once again. Can you please escort Mr. Butterball to one of the transitioning stations? I'm thinking he'd make a great golden retriever, with a life full of playing, cuddling from humans, and long walks. Will do, Terry, Willow said. You may have a time getting all the turkeys calmed down. Good luck. Laura Pena?
Yes. Yay.
I hope everybody can hear me.
Oh, yes.
Good. I've been kind of fighting a little bit of a cold because I work with a bunch of 4 and 5-year-olds, so they are always sick. All right. So I found this one, and I think this is very apt for right now. This is called In the Beginning. In the beginning, it was all water. I had gills and fins, razor sharp teeth. I swam all day and night, ate my fill until I hungered for more. Came up to the surface. The air burned. I thought I'd die. But I came ashore. Fins turned to feet. Body and hands appeared. Gills closed. Nostrils formed. The air still hot, but easier to breathe. teeth grew smaller, as did my appetites. And for millennia, it was peaceful. It was then the earth grew crowded, violent, intolerant. My love for it burned me out, and now I long to return to the sea. Thank you. Okay, and then this one is called An Ode to Lilith, Adam's first wife. Eden, the paradise, as promised, perfect, languid, manicured trails, lush trees, heavy with fruit, ponds luminous with fish. Nothing to do all day long, nothing to do all night long. Yet to Lilith, Eden was a prison. She longed for the ferocious noise of unseen wild things that set her heart racing with exhilaration. She screamed up at the perfect sun rising and setting each day. Without the shades of fierce reds and yellows in a raging sky, Adam seemed more interested in listening to an invisible voice that only commanded him to name all the animals and stay away from that tree, rather than the actual voice of his purported beloved, made for his pleasure and company. Is it any wonder Lilith grew restless and bored by such commonality? Is it any wonder she wanted to sit on top of Adam and howl in the night like the unseen wild things? Oh, Adam, how little you valued Lilith. Oh, Lilith, you knew just when to leave, having outgrown Adam and defying the mighty invisible voice that banished you into exile. Better to walk the jagged rocks and exult into the abyss than spend eternity shackled to the tree of knowledge from which she was forbidden to eat. Thank you. And I'll end with this one. This is called River God. In ancient times, he was revered as a deity, powerful yet gentle, running through canyons, gouging gorgeous grooves into the canyon walls. Times changed. He grew heavy, carrying a burden never meant for his waters. He struggled on, but felt sharp pains at each bend. He took until he came to a cottage and went in to relieve his weary body. A young girl bathed him and plucked from his depths glass bottles, tires, tin cans, an old bicycle, shoes, etc., etc. Healed, he was able to continue his journey south. To thank her, he gave her a few smooth stones that he polished within his own heart. Thank you.
Next we have Sandi Stromberg. Love the tiara. Yes, you're rocking it.
Thank you. First of all, I became a poet because of WIFLA and the backing that I got back in 1999. And my first book, they have at the back, if anyone's interested, it's called Frogs Don't Sing Red. Yeah. It came out last year. The tiara, I went to Sacramento to see my college roommate, and we met in this last month, 50 years ago, as college roommates. So we are still seeing each other. And she said, let's drive up to Ashland, Oregon, to the Shakespeare Festival. So we drove up there, and in the Shakespeare shop, she tried on this tiara. And she said to me, oh, Sandi, you've got to try on this tiara. And I said, no, that's just not me. And she said, "You'll find places to wear it." So I finally said, okay. I wore it to the 30th anniversary. I'm wearing it tonight. And now I'm already thinking of all the places I can wear it.
New Year's Eve.
So that's not my scary story. But, I'm going to read two poems, and they're going to be in the book I'm working on now. At the turn of the century, I worked at Christ Church Cathedral running a center for feminine spirituality and creativity called Bridget's Place. And I ran that for 4 years. And in my office, and we had our 30th anniversary there 2 weeks ago, but they have closed everything up. It used to be very open where people could walk into the cathedral, into where the offices were and all. And in my office, there's this gigantic painting. It was red, and it had been painted with a palette knife. Okay, I'm not an artist. So, palette knife, and it was streaks of red with black, almost like barbed wire running through it. And it was called the briar patch. It was frightening. So. The briar patch. The sour odor, urine, tired sweat, street roughage, and then his rasping voice. "Hello there, doll." My body tenses, mind locking onto a 20-year-old terror. Cleveland, the October moon, the sticky hand around my neck. Please, I shiver. This is Houston, daylight, a house of God. Can the mind never crush a memory, flatten it like a soda can under a car's wheels, and then leave it behind? "I'm safe, doll. No problem, no problem. Your door asked me to come in." He stands there, his clothes hanging, a dirty shroud for his bones. As though seconds could be re-entered, I back toward the window, fogged by decades of downtown grime, sealed by layers of paint. Rush hour traffic flows through timed lights. The vagrant studies my office, the books, the dying peace lily, until his eyes reach the painting, its deep crimson fierceness. For breathless minutes, he falls silent, riveted to this canvas, crisscrossed with the red slashes of a palette knife. His attention snags on row after row of thick, shaky lines, thorned like barbed wire. In bold, dark letters, the briar patch scrawls across the bottom. For a moment, we are gathered like a trinity, the homeless man, me, the painting. Then come his words, dredged from some unknown depth. Is this a crucifixion? I once believed in God, he said, but where's the sense in it? The other one is that nature can sometimes scare us, be it forests or other places. And several years ago, my husband and I went over to the hill country, to Wimberley. And outside of Wimberley is a place called Jacob's Well. And this is my reaction. Bewitching at Jacob's Well. The water dazzles its rippling fingers a swirl of blues and greens, enticing the unaware to plunge into coolness, a pool that beckons and repulses, tethers me to the rocks. The locals say its lacy limestone reaches toward the center of the earth, conceals an invisible maze of caves, devious alcoves to greet and keep those answering the siren's call. They say somewhere in its unknown depths are watery graves. I shiver as clouds block the sun's dizzying rays and wrap my body in my arms. Darkness bubbles up from some uncharted source. I step back from the rim, force my eyes to rest on the peaceful face of a distant, mosquito-covered hill, to break the iron hold of the mesmerizing water, its treacherous color, so I can breathe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This concludes our reading for this evening. Do what? You're giving me signals.
Group photo.
Oh, okay, you can't leave. We're gonna have a group photo, whether you like it or not. But thank you everyone who wrote. I love the inspiration that I heard here tonight and just the expressiveness. And it gives me another excuse to wear my Halloween costume one more time, so I appreciate that too. We'll do it again next year. Thank you so much. Do you have any WIVLA announcements you would like to make? I know we have our meeting on the 19th. Brooke?
I can't think of any.
Okay.
Holiday party on December 8th.
Oh.
Yeah, get that on your calendars. That's a Sunday in the
Where?
afternoon at Silver Street.
And
Okay.
we'll have another literary event for the meeting on the 19th, where everybody's writing about pearls. All right. Thank you. All readers, come on up here and get your picture taken.